Hi guys, we're going to be reading the book The Trimates today. It's from our Rooted in Reading series, and this is another nonfiction or real piece for us to look at. If you notice here, we have our table of contents, which I also like to refer to as a map of our book. Page 1 is going to be our introduction. Page 2, Young Jane. Page 3, Goodall's accomplishments. Page 4, Dian's beginnings. 5, Fossey's findings. 6, Birute Galdikas. And 7, Birute's impact. Introduction. The term Trimates refers to the three women who broke through barriers in the science world to study primates. In the 1950s, this field was dominated by men who felt like women weren't qualified to bring anything to the table in terms of knowledge or new research. This bias actually worked in their favor because they were given freedom to go out into the field and observe the primates in their natural habitat. In the mid-1900s, Louis Leakey, the world's leading primatologist, was putting together a team to research, and he happened upon Jane Goodall, Dian Fossey, and Birute Galdikas. These three women forever changed how the world viewed primates and revolutionized how these beautiful creatures are studied. Young Jane. From a young age, Jane was very curious about nature and her surroundings. She had a favorite toy chimpanzee called Jubilee that went on adventures outside with her. To understand just how curious Jane was as a child, there is a story about her disappearing for a long time and her family having to go on a search for her. When her family finally found her, she was sitting and observing how chickens lay eggs. Jane read books such as Tarzan that sparked her interest and set her eyes on studying animals in Africa as a long-term goal. Jane attended school to be a secretary, even though she wanted to be a journalist. Everything changed for Jane when a friend invited her to Kenya. Goodall's accomplishments. When Jane Goodall began her research in Tanzania, she made friends with a chimpanzee that she named Davis Graybeard. This in itself was odd because other scientists numbered animals instead of naming them. What this tells you about Jane is that she valued the individuality of each chimpanzee. One day when Goodall was observing David, he used a stick to get to termites inside a mound. This was a groundbreaking observation because no other animal beside humans had ever been seen using a tool. No one even thought it was possible. Goodall also learned that chimpanzees will hunt and eat meat. To this day, Jane Goodall is a leading voice in conservation efforts around the world. Dian's beginnings. Although Dian began her schooling in business, she quickly changed her mind after a summer taking care of animals on a ranch. She became a pre-veterinary major and after college became an occupational therapist with children in Louisville, Kentucky. Despite loving her job, Dian yearned to see Africa and study wild animals. In 1963, Dian took out a bank loan to finance her own excursion. On this trip, she met Dr. Leakey and learned of Jane Goodall's study that had been underway for 3 years now. Dian was able to observe her first gorillas on that trip and made up her mind that she would come back to study them. Fossey's findings. On her next trip back to Africa, Dian faced many hardships with poachers and political unrest. She didn't let any of this deter her, and she began her extensive study in Rwanda. Like Goodall, Dian Fossey learned to become a member of the gorilla tribes so that she could closely observe their behavior and develop relationships with the large mammals. Her research included observations on how females were treated by male gorillas. Fossey is best known for her book, Gorillas in the Mist, which details her experiences in life. Toward the end of her life, Fossey focused on trying to save the beautiful land that was home to the gorillas. Birute Galdikas. Birute was just 6 years old. The cartoon Curious George helped her fall in love with primates and let her know that she wanted to become an explorer. When she was a graduate student at UCLA, she was able to meet Dr. Leakey and express her interest in conducting research on orangutans. In 1971, she did just that. She and her then husband moved to the Indonesian island Borneo and set up camp. Orangutans are incredibly hard to study because they do not live in groups like the chimpanzee or gorillas. It took Birute a full week of trekking through the jungle before she spotted one orangutan. Birute's impact. Birute Galdikas' life work has included lecturing to many on social habitats of the orangutan. She observed that female orangutans are very invested in their families, whereas males tend to stay on their own. She also observed over 400 different foods in their diet and gave extensive insight into social aspects of the orangutan. She founded the Orangutan Foundation International in 1986. This organization's purpose is to preserve the rainforest and save the orangutan. It is estimated that there are only about 7,500 orangutans left in the wild. Therefore, they are in danger of becoming extinct. The research and dedication of Jane Goodall, Dian Fossey, and Birute Galdikas has forever changed how the world sees primates. If we follow their lead, we might just save these beautiful mammals.